think about the generations and to say we want to make it a better place for our children and our children's children, so that they know it's a better world for them and think they can make it a better place.
There's a place in your heart, and I know that it is love, and this place is much brighter than tomorrow. And if you really try, you'll find there's no need to cry. In this place, you feel there's no hurt or sorrow. There are ways to get there if you care enough for the living. Make a little space, make a better place. Get a better place for you and for me. There are there's a love that cannot hide. Love is strong, only cares for joyful giving. We try, you see, in this bliss we cannot feel. Stop existing and start moving. Feels better, nothing left for moving.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Abdul Kanu. I'm a younger brother to Dr. Al-Hussein Kanu. Dr. Kanu is a native of Sierra Leone. He migrated to the United States in 1976. He acquired his bachelor's degree from George Mason University, a master's degree from George Mason, and a PhD from George Mason. And he had recently just acquired his second PhD, and he is very passionate for the country that he came from, which is Sierra Leone. A little over 7 years ago, he went on a visit, and after his visit, he came back and spoke to a colleague at George Mason University to help us open community college, which is in Freetown and in Sierra Leone. The country alone, I've already donated 5 sites. The land is already available, but the struggle is getting the funding. And that is the struggle Dr. Kanu is still trying to acquire means and ways of getting the community colleges to get started. With the epidemic of Ebola that just started in Sierra Leone and the 3 other nations in West Africa, it is very saddening that our people are dying. It's a big epidemic. We're trying to find any way we can help the unfortunate ones that are in Africa right now, especially our country. So with the vision, Dr. Kanu decided to put this event together to come up with ways as far as how we can raise funds to assist our people. Great, me a great pleasure to introduce my brother, Dr. Alhussein Kanu.
Good evening. And thank you for a wonderful introduction, my brother Abdul Kanu. It's a pleasure to welcome all of you at St. Barnabas Episcopal Church. This is where I do my prayers. Today is an occasion of consideration. Sometimes in life and in the global village we are in, we have to balance the local and the global. In other words, we are members of a global community instead of just looking at the local. So I welcome members of St. Barnabas Church, I welcome members of the diaspora, and I welcome students from Northern Virginia Community College and from George Mason University. This occasion is mainly meant to have empathy and sympathy for the people of Sierra Leone. A lot has been going on. I left Sierra Leone when I was 19 years old. And for some reason, each attempt I make to go back, something happens. The first time when I was doing my first doctorate, I wanted to go back, and there was the rebel war. And recently, in terms of my retirement, I was thinking of going to Sierra Leone and retire. Now Ebola. So I wonder if I should be from a distance. It's sad. This occasion is meant mainly to obtain funding for the orphans that have been affected by Ebola. Some of them are just roaming in the country, no place to stay, no food to eat, and the endless struggles and the endless uncertainties. So I felt called upon to do this fundraising so that we can help the unfortunate in Sierra Leone. A good way to start the program is with prayers. Because I'm a believer in God. I'm almost earning a doctorate in pastoral community counseling. I felt that was my calling at this time. So I'm going to ask us to pray first in the Muslim way and then the Christian way, because in my country, we are even, about 50% are Muslims and 50% are Christians. And both sides are victims of Ebola. So I'm going to ask us first to say the Lord's Prayer, after which we will pray in the Muslim tradition as well. So please join me together in saying the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Thank you. I will call on my cousin. We have the same name in my family. The firstborn is given the same name. So he is Mosire Kanu, and my middle name is Mosire Kanu as well. So please lead us in the Muslim prayer. Thank you.
Jamal Sallallahu Muhammad. May God bless us this night. It's a wonderful night. And to everything, we have to give thanks and praise to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for all things are possible to Him. And with all the achievements that Dr. Kanu, my brother, has already accomplished over the years, and with this calling, there is still much to be done. And there is no other way that we can be able to do this or make it possible had it not been for the sake of Allah, who is God. So I will ask all of us tonight to recite Al-Fatiha, which is in a way our Lord's Prayer as well in the Muslim tradition. We'll go ahead, all of us, and those who don't know how to say it, how you do it, Amen. And inshallah, God will bless us all tonight. Al-Fatiha Jaharan. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين Amen. May God help us all.
Thank you, Pamosir. At this time, I want to call people who have been to Africa and who will give us an update on the current situation of Ebola in Sierra Leone. The first person I'll call on is Mr. Robert Gribbin, a good friend of mine. He always updates me and he keeps me informed on what's going on in Sierra Leone and in Africa. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much. My name is Robert Gribbin. I'm a retired United States ambassador, and I get sent out periodically on different missions. And I was the interim ambassador in Freetown in August and September of this year. And when I got there, we discovered that the Ebola crisis had reached a proportion that had not been expected, and it was growing much faster than we had thought. My first task was at the embassy itself to make sure that the embassy was prepared, that we had the protocols and the procedures in place to make sure that we maintained a safe working environment for all our staff. And most of our staff, as you may know, are Sierra Leoneans. And then we had to make sure that everyone there knew what Ebola was and how it was transmitted and what they could do to protect themselves and their families from this disease. So I think we accomplished that. We also, the United States Embassy becomes the platform from which all U.S. interagency activities work. And so by the time I left, we had 33 people from the Centers for Disease Control in Atlanta out providing technical advice and expertise to the Emergency Operations Center and the government apparatus that was dealing with Ebola. We also brought in a U.S. AID team that comes in, fortunately, with lots and lots of money, and we're able to sort of improve the logistical train of stuff that needed to be brought in for personal protective equipment, body bags, gloves, masks, chemicals, and so forth. But the real issue, of course, was in Sierra Leone itself. And when I was there, the Ebola was mostly confined to the east. It had come across, the border from Guinea probably in December last year. It got spread. It was probably the reservoir for Ebola in West Africa was a fruit bat. And it was the same strain of Ebola that has been found in Zaire, or now the Congo. And so the fruit bats migrated that far, probably in successions, is really unknown, but that's the presumption. But in any case, case 0 was a small child in Guinea, and she died, and her brother and her grandmother died. And then a number of people from Guinea sought help from a traditional healer in Sierra Leone. And so many of the first hundreds of cases in Sierra Leone are traced back to that traditional healer, because she was doing what she could in the face of that disease. So the problem with Ebola is that it's transmitted from person to person through bodily fluids. And so our message to everyone was, if somebody's sick, don't touch them. If somebody dies, don't touch them. And these are, as you know from Sierra Leone, are very, very difficult sort of strictures to put into place. Because if you have a family in a small house and somebody gets sick, you care for them. And so this is how Ebola has been transmitted. But the thinking when I got there in August was that we might be able to confine the disease mostly to the east, where it was most prevalent. But in fact, while I was there, cases began to show up in Freetown. And let me give you an example of one. One was an Army officer and his wife who had been stationed in Kanema, and they had come back to Freetown. And by the time they got to Freetown, they were sick. They went into the Army hospital, and the Army hospital was at that point was not a treatment center. And so once they were identified with having Ebola, they had to be sent back to the treatment center in Kanema. But then you have to contact trace every person that they had any contact with over the 4 days before they left Kamina to come to the capital and then on their way back. And that amounted to hundreds of people. And you have to find those people and isolate them, and so that it just mushrooms outward. The government, I think, put into place a fairly effective Ebola control mechanism, the Emergency Operations Center. They had a 911 number, it's a 117 number in Freetown, where you could call and get information and advice and report sicknesses and report deaths. The government instituted some very strict controls. There were to be no burials without government permission. There would be no public meetings. All the schools were closed. A lot of the businesses began to shut down. Every place of business had to have a chlorine hand washing station outside. People quit shaking hands, and as you know, Africans love to shake hands. And so this is a constant reminder. When you see someone, you can't shake hands. You sort of do a little bow like that. For a while there was a joke that went around, and people would bump elbows and say Ebola. And I was heartened by that, telling that people hadn't lost their sense of humor. But that has become passé as the dimension of the crisis spread. So the international community rallied around later than it should have. We didn't know the extent of the problem. It was expanding as fast as it was. But finally begun, I think, to get on top of it. All the equipment is there. All the procedures are known as to how you control the disease. Don't touch anybody that's sick. Don't touch anybody that's dead. And burial teams are operating on a regular basis. Whenever somebody does die, the notification has come. They come in and collect the corpse and take it and bury it. And so there are lots of very difficult things for Sierra Leoneans to go through, because the one main issue is you don't know who you're dealing with. You don't know if this person that you sat next to on the bus is a contact of somebody who has Ebola, or if he has it himself. And so this has created a great deal of uncertainty in the society, and it's something that it'd be very difficult to live with in order to put society back together again. There are survivors of Ebola, and there are orphans, and some are both orphans and survivors. I met a little girl that about this big. She was about 2 and a half, who was a survivor and also an orphan. All the rest of her family had succumbed to the disease. And so when parents die and leave children, there is a need for help for them, and there's also need for children who are survivors. As you can imagine, depending on different circumstances, some survivors are accepted back into their families and communities without difficulties. Others are shunned because they feel that they must be carrying. One of the other difficulties is that Sierra Leoneans, especially the healthcare sector, are borne the brunt of the deaths because they've lost 40 or 50 nurses, 5 or 6 physicians. Sierra Leone didn't have a lot of physicians to the disease because they're the ones that are in the treatment centers and are most likely to get accidentally exposed to the disease. So sometimes then anyone who's a healthcare worker is shunned even though he or she is taking the proper precautions. People just don't want to be around them. Another casualty in society has been not only the closing of schools, but everyday health care for everyone else is completely stopped. All the clinics are closed. There's no place to have a baby. There's no place to go if you have a heart attack. Because all of these institutions, the personnel that run them saying, well, somebody shows up here with a fever, and we're not trained because this is not an Ebola center, then what do we do? And so they've just simply stopped. So there are lots of problems in Sierra Leone, but I think we haven't yet turned the corner. We may have turned the corner in Liberia in terms of new infections, but we haven't turned the corner yet in Sierra Leone. The rate of infections continues to increase. But I think that there's a much clearer understanding now among the government, among the people, among the international community as to how to control the disease. And the mechanisms are more in place. The public relations program is very effective. And so I think people have the message, and so now it's just we need to take the time to make sure that the message gets across and that we can get control of the disease, and we have the adequate protection for the healthcare workers, we have the adequate number of treatment center beds, and that we can get the communities to rally around those who are survivors and support for the orphans. So with that assessment, I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Griffin. That was very informative, and it updates us on what's going on in Sierra Leone. A brother, a friend, we went to elementary school together, this man. Whenever I got in trouble, he was the one who will fight for me. It's my pleasure to introduce who I call Mr. Willman. He's going to come and give us some more updates since he was recently in Sierra Leone and he has been in the diaspora here for so many years. He's a medical doctor by profession. So Mr. Willman, come say a few words about Ebola.
Thank you, Mr. Khan. Good evening, Church. And fellow Sierra Leoneans, Your Excellency, and brothers and sisters. I wonder whether there is much to say after His Excellency has given his expose on the Ebola crisis in Sierra Leone. However, I wish to just add to a few of what has been said. But first of all, let me just debunk what my brother here said. Not really debunk, but I'm yet to be disappointed by Dr. Al-Hussein Khan. He is quite calculating when we were at school. The only thing, I was a bit bigger than him. And he looks at me as his Goliath. So whenever he's in trouble, he comes and hides behind me. Yeah, but on the other side, he has always been thinking straight. The only difference is that while he was thinking on the humanities, I was thinking on the science. So he became a doctor of humanities, and I became a doctor in, in the services of health. We are so close. We're just about 5 houses apart. Our sisters here, they are the sisters of my elder sister. The brother here, late father, Mr. Abu Kanu, was a close friend of mine. Brother, my late brother as well. So we are so close. I live in Safi. We used to work in the same hospital at the Nova Community, at Nova Hospital. I've come across a lot of practice in the epidemiological services. I've been going through 3 continents. First in Egypt, where I graduated as a medical doctor. And I worked in Saudi Arabia for some 14 years. And now I'm in the States. So it was not by mistake that we all choose to go back home and give our experiences. While he was thinking of community colleges on the educational side, I was thinking of bringing home the West African Medical Center. Already we have a building with some equipment. Something happened, and I had to leave that center, but I think it was a blessing in disguise. But before I left that center, I was practicing in Freetown. I was in Freetown the March of this year at the outbreak of Ebola. And I had my own PPE, my personal protective effector gear, like gloves, latex and other things. I was self-sponsored. There was a time I ran out of this PPE. I had only one glove. And at the end of the duty, one Okada driver came with a lacerated wound. Okada is, a motorcycle taxi. They are so rough in their dealings, and so he came with an accident with a lacerated wound. I had to stitch with one glove and one bare hand. I tried my best to escape being contaminated with blood, but I didn't sleep that night. Then I spoke to my family, and my wife said, you know what, if you don't have your personal protective effect, I think it's better you come back home. I know you are very philanthropic, you want to help, but just come back. So I had to leave in June. Don't worry, if the next speaker is coming, I told you I had one glove, and that glove is still in my right hand. So if I give you the speaker, don't think I still have Ebola. I'm very happy that we are able to congregate here, because the first thing I noticed when the ambassador came, he reached out to everybody with his hand. I was very happy, I was very touched. Thank you, Mr. Ambassador. We don't do that anymore in Sierra Leone. What is happening in Sierra Leone is no surprise that we are having the spread of the disease coming in exponential numbers. At the epicenter, the geographical location between Liberia, Guinea, and Sierra Leone is also where we have some studies going on, like the Lassa fever, and probably an Ebola study also going on. The culture of the people is such that we are so friendly. I give you a typical case of our town in Lone Sir. The chief imam, whom I met before he died, was the head of the mosques in Lone Sir, and being that the culture of the people was Islam, a friend of his died of Ebola. And he believed that he has to be washed. He said he has to go clean to meet his God. So he had some water from Mecca called Zamzam. He went out, got the Zamzam, washed the cups, and he too became infected, and he died. I mean, this was a very clear example that we should forgo our cultures. But even then, these are the things we are grappling with. The government is grappling with. Government is doing a lot of things, a lot of social media, like the ABC, avoid body contact because of the fluid. This disease has been as old as the Methuselah. It started in Yugoslavia. Then it came to Germany and it was known as the Marburg virus. Then it, erupted in Zaire, Uganda, and Sudan. Between these three countries, there are some Ebola effects coming from the Philippines, but they are not as virulent as this one, which has emerged or resurfaced in West Africa. However, our sister countries are containing this because they have forgone some of their cultural effects. In Sierra Leone, it is not harbor. Crimination of a body? You're kidding me. Nobody's going to do that. Liberia is doing that, and I think that has a very good effect. I dare not say we do that in Sierra Leone because they will say, I am an unbeliever, a Kafri. But I think it has gone a lot to help that. So, my message to all of us here, if we take a phone and call our relatives back home, let us reinforce. Let us reinforce the idea of forgoing our cultures. I know it's very difficult, and to call the authorities concerned. I mean, the only thing I would ask the international community, Your Excellency, of course, I mean, this is just a humble request, and all friends here, we're here, is to help us, even now or even after Ebola, to increase or build more capacity building in the health sector. Because what is happening is just a makeshift tents that are being constructed. And even this, if this were done earlier in the outbreak of the disease wouldn't have reached this, value. As we can see down the road, Kenema Kailaon is having 0 registration because measures were taken because this was the most affected. And look at the cross country, is about 300 to 400 miles from Freetown and 250. So if we have an Ebola patient, that was the only center we had that was taking care of Ebola patients. Driving patients through 300 miles to the epicenter is already another chaos and a recipe for more contamination. And also, I know that every life is very valuable, and I want to plead for our doctors because today we just lost, yesterday or so, 2 days back, we lost about the 10th doctor. Out of 11 physicians, only 1 survivor so far, according to statistics. So we are actually at the forefront because if you look at it, we have no specialties. When I was practicing, I was a pediatrician trained, I was looking from pediatric cases to delivery. You can't say no. The number of ratio patients to doctor is unbalanced. So doctors are overwhelmed, we are overcrowded. If you look at the scenario, the British government, the Frigid, they have an 80-bed or an 80-bed hospital. They only admit 5 to 6 patients. That's the mandate given to them. So it means Ebola does not allow overcrowding. And as we are, poverty, people go out, beg for food. Once they get money, they can buy cookery to eat and buy something to bring for their people. 4 hours from Freetown to Liberia, 6 hours to Guinea. People go to Guinea to get their goods. I mean, the contamination is anybody's guess. We are at a loss. The government does not know. Thank God to the American government and the international community, they've stepped up the game. I say so because if I can remember very well, one of the speeches by President Obama, he said, to quote him, "We know how to treat the disease." And I believe now they're on the ground. But again, it depends on our attitude. We have to change our attitude. This is very important. There's denial, there's culture, there's poverty, but again, we have to be disciplined. So I don't want to take much of your time. If I can reach so far, I hope the international community will come more to our aid, because otherwise we're going to be exterminated on the face of the earth. And I don't want that to be, especially for our orphans. I think this is a very benevolent idea of my brother. The world is no longer giving. It's no longer benevolent. But I want us all to come benevolently and support our people and our orphans in Sierra Leone. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Willman. That was a good update, and thank you for sharing your sentiments, your experiences, and for asking us to do something as members of the international community. At this time, I will open the floor for anyone who wants to say anything about the Ebola crisis and the Ebola epidemic. So the floor is open for anyone who wants to say a few words. No one does.
I have a question, Doctor.
Yes.
It's not about Ebola, about the community colleges.
Right.
I want to say congratulations to you.
Okay.
And for the good work you've been doing, and I'm sure also this is very much needed, because I've been taught in some of the community colleges here myself. I think we need this type of education in Sierra Leone. So I want to give you thumbs up and kudos and continue that. So how far have you reached so far with the implementation of the community colleges?
That's a very good question. The Community College project started in 2005. After the Rebel War, I went home to visit, and I was saddened and disappointed that things have changed. So I came and met Dr. Gail Kettlewell of George Mason University. And since then, I personally spent my finances to take a team to Sierra Leone. And we met with the government, and 4 years ago the president came, the Minister of Education came, a memorandum of understanding was signed, and we have 4 locations for the community college project. In each location, land has been donated worth $6 million in each location. The setback was the Sierra Leone government expected the American government to do everything. And the American government said, or the sponsor said, you have to come up with a certain percentage. So that's where the hold has been. And unfortunately for Dr. Gail Kettlewell, her husband is currently seriously sick, so she has stopped all the movement. But my thoughts about the community college in relation to Ebola is that when we try to help underdeveloped countries, sometimes we use a bandage approach. We solve a problem here and something else happens. So the idea of the community college was to help with the overall development in all areas. The vision was someone comes to the college, you have a job, and you study what you're going to do your job with, and there are many more opportunities if that has gone through. So at this time with the Ebola crisis, my vision is that we should do public service announcements. And I will welcome your contribution to this as well, my friend.
Definitely.
Public service announcements, as well as develop health education or sponsor health education prospects in Sierra Leone. So that's where the community college project is right now. It's a big vision, and as long as I'm alive, I hope someday to see it into fruition. Thank you for your question. Yes, you can come up.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen.
My name is Ahmed Kamara. I'm the brother-in-law of Dr. Kanu. Talking about community colleges in Sierra Leone, I'm much more interested. I've been a member, I was one time a member of the community college project when it started in Sierra Leone, till when it was finally handed over to education gurus like Professor Bamanja, and that was the time when we decided to back off. But I'm still interested. I'm just here to make a citation from one of Dr. Kanu's papers that he presented for the community project in Sierra Leone. He raised a question in that paper. He said, can community project rescue Sierra Leone? And that was a rhetorical question. That means he asked the question and he answered it. He said, yes, community colleges can help develop Sierra Leone, a developing country with inequality in income distribution, power distance, and as he said, endless uncertainties. Dr. Kanu is a supporter or the visionary for the community colleges in Sierra Leone. He sees that, or he believes that community colleges in Sierra Leone will be able to identify opportunities and will provide solutions to community problems, and will in effect transform the education of Sierra Leone to something more meaningful and more powerful for a more productive outcome. So I'm just here to commend him for the good work and to say bravo to him for him not to relent. I'm not only optimistic, but I'm confident that one day, he will triumph and the community college project will come something of develop. It will be a development program for Sierra Leone, and all Sierra Leoneans will be able to benefit through it. If I take the example of Guinea, a brief historical review showed that Guinea developed the middle level manpower. You have Frigotex. If you are in Sierra Leone, you find out that most of the Frigotex, the cobblers, they are all from Sierra Leone. So if a community college is established in Sierra Leone, they will be able to cater for the dregs of the society. We have a social problem. The youth are a problem in our country. So if a community college is established in Sierra Leone, I think it will go far ahead to address that issue of youth unemployment and the social problems in the community. So I would say bravo to Dr. Kanu.
Thank you, Mr. Mohammed. When one looks at the history of the community college in the United States, there was a time there were so many issues. Someone envisioned that all the problems of society can be addressed at the community college level. That's the same vision I have for Sierra Leone. I feel all the social problems, all the economic problems, employment problems, development problems can be addressed if the community college is brought to fruition. At this time, we've said many things, and again, I offer prayers to the victims of Ebola. But I think the food is ready, and I ask that.
I don't know.
You are not.
Okay. I just want to give my support with a little amount here.
Okay.
And this is the least I can do for now, and perhaps we'll work together to bring many more things home.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
If you want to donate, the table is there to make your donation. But at the same time, I think it's time to eat. The food is ready, and we'll have more speeches before we go tonight. I'm a community college professor, I'm a university professor, and I love speeches. So if you need to donate, the table is there, and if you need to eat, the food is here. Help yourself. Mr. DJ, you can treat us to some more music. Thank you.
Contributions and also pledges. And we will appreciate anything in kind also, even without money, but also that will go to help the orphanage in Sierra Leone. Thank you.
Why don't you take a video of the food?
Here.
Working.
As we talk about Ebola, there are three views of health care. One is some say health is supernatural. Others say health has to be a balance between a person and nature. And some say health is biomedical. I have a headache, I take a pill for it. I just hope all those three perspectives work in dealing with the Ebola crisis, with prayers, with sentiments, and I hope God will guide us in finding a cure for Ebola. At this time, I want to introduce some significant people in my life. My two moms, Haja Safi Kamara and Haja Yakanu Kanu. They are my two moms. I love them dearly. I also want to introduce two of my children, Daniel Kanu and Hawa. Can you come here, please? My daughter, Hawa. And I want to introduce my family. I think there are many of us in here. Can you please come up front? Members of the Kanu family. The in-laws can come too.
Everybody here.
Thank you all for coming. We are a family, right? My late dad had 27 of us. Okay, thank you very much. I just want to mention that there are 3 donations one can make. One is to the orphans for the Ebola epidemic. Another is for the community college so that we can construct programs to help with health care in Sierra Leone. The third is I have written 5 textbooks. If you buy any of them, the royalties will also go to the Ebola crisis. There are samples of them up there, and there are flyers if you want a description of them. But for each book you buy, the royalties will go to help the orphans dealing with the Ebola crisis. We have so many things to say. The main deal is the Ebola crisis and the community college. And I'm encouraging you to get a copy of one of my textbooks. I also want to make a moment of silence for my late wife. If she were here today, she'll be so excited as usual. May God give her the best of everything in this world and the next. At this time, I would like to call on my brother again, Abdul Kanu, to say a few things to celebrate my birthday anniversary.
Good evening again. My senior brother, Dr. Kanu, will be celebrating his birthday. Since we already got it here today, we were just going to celebrate early.
I'm 2 years older than him.
His birthday actually will be falling on the 26th of December. And happy birthday, Dr. Kanu. And if we all can just stand up and sing happy birthday to him, we'll really appreciate it. I'm starting. Happy birthday.
It comes once a year. So your prayers will be good to the Lord. For the precious day in your life. And so open this one I'll sing for you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you, dear. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you, dear. Happy birthday to you. We wish you success. We wish you success. We wish you success, yeah. Happy birthday to you. How old are you? How old are you? How old are you, dear? Happy birthday to you. Famous round here. Come done, I'm done. Now you be sad. If I don't eat, you don't go eat, yeah. If I don't sleep, you don't go sleep, yeah. Come on, done, one for left. Money done, one for left. If I don't get it, go they be happy. Where we don't move, we go to the dear. Come on, done, one for left. Money done, one for left. I say. This someone story about a girl and I love her most. She love me most, but thinking change. Loving on this and money can do. Her love is sweet like a sugar. Money dead, we don't go tired. Up and down, we go the passes. Then we like them could you imagine? I give you 10,000 every day. Then the baby only the 10,000 for the young girl. That's what we're done. Now you eat sad. If I don't eat, you don't go eat, yeah. If I don't sleep, you don't go sleep, yeah. God, what I'm done, you want for left. Money done, you want for left. If I don't get you, go they be happy. When we don't cook, we go to the
Hello. Again, today is a day of more celebration. When an individual accomplishes what my brother has done, we need to celebrate it. To have a second doctorate degree is nothing easy, and Dr. Kano has done it. He is about to get his PhD in pastoral community counseling with concentration in multicultural counseling at Agony University in Florida. Again, congratulations, my brother. There's somebody behind you. I'm sure she has told you already that you will want to do more than what you do, and that is your niece. who's at Clark University doing a master's degree also. And she wished she was here, but the distance could not make her attend. She said, congratulations. Again, congratulations and for a job well done, my brother.
Thank you. Thank you, Abdul. It's been a wonderful occasion. Friends are here, family are here. We are all concerned with what's going on in Sierra Leone with regard to the orphans for the Ebola epidemic. The pastor of my church is here. She is a distinguished leader, and I'm happy to be part of this congregation. And I will call on her to say a few words to us, if you don't mind. Maybe a prayer.
Well, I want to welcome all of you on behalf of St. Barnabas, and we are very proud of Alicine for putting all this together, inviting everyone here. Just before he came to me wanting to book the space here for a benefit, I'd just been bragging on some of our other Episcopal churches that were doing benefits. St. Paul's was having a musical benefit, and that was such a stretch for them to do, and I'm so proud of them. And then Goodwin House Retirement Center was having a day of prayer, which was what they could do as retirees there. And then lo and behold, in another couple of days here, this all began to develop. And so glad that this is happening, and certainly we're happy to host everything here at St. Barnabas. This is an issue that's very much in our prayers, and we're hoping so much that this will be a turning point that will bring the kind of health care that needs to be. When we can do so much to prevent such a scourge as this, and it needs to end, and it's people like you coming together, putting all your weight together, and banding together that begins to do what needs to happen to make change. And good people coming together. That's the only thing that's ever changed things in this world, and you're doing it. And we just have to take the small edge of a big problem and do our part. And I thank you for all that you're doing. You got to keep at it. Got to keep at it. So, you want me to say a prayer? And I know we may be of all different sorts of faiths coming together, but know that this is the time in our Christian life that we're waiting the coming of Christ, and the kingdom that comes with Christ is a time when we talk a lot about peace, about justice, about bringing down the mountains and raising up the valleys, and making this a world that is just and where all God's children are cared for. And so it's right that we gather at this time. So let us pray. Gracious God, we ask your blessing upon your people who come together to reach out, to care, to heal, to prevent the growing pain that is there in West Africa. We pray, Lord, that you would strengthen us for this hard work, that you would bring your blessing upon those who suffer, that you would most of all keep us ever faithful in making a difference. We ask your blessing on all that we do. Give us strength and courage for this journey. Amen.
Make a pre-order, and the royalties also go to the Ebola orphan crisis. At this time, I will open the floor for anyone who wants to say a few words about Ebola, about the community college, about Sierra Leone, about life, whatever you want to say. Anyone wants to say something? You're welcome to. You want to say something? Okay, please come.
My brothers and sisters, good evening to you once again. The situation we face today in Sierra Leone is very sad. But to every good things, we have good or bad, we have to say thanks to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But what I want to make clear tonight here is that every single minute that we all sit on the sideline waiting, there is somebody who either is closer to you or somebody who is closer to somebody you are closer to is losing his or her life today in Sierra Leone. We thank God for all the achievements that we've all attained to. There are bad days coming and going, and we thank Him for bringing those days. And those are days we have to understand are days of challenge. Because every single minute or every single day you live is a test. And here comes the test. God wants us to be able to acknowledge the fact that if He blessed you, you should be your own brother's keeper, according to some scriptures. And in our own faith as well, if you see someone who is in struggle, the fight that my brother is fighting today for the orphanage, I am here speaking to you tonight, grown up, and recently, as far as 4 years back, I've just lost my father. So in other words, I am also an orphan. Lost my mom since I was 3 months old. But the thing tonight that I want all of us to know is the purpose for which we are here tonight. We should be able to reach into our pockets. We've had enough to eat, we've had visions, we've had all the speeches, but what can we leave here tonight and you feel that you have accomplished tonight? The single money that you kept in the bank, please, my brothers and sisters, let's go ahead and reach into our pockets tonight. Let's vow, even if this has to be the last night that you have to contribute for a cause that is worth, this is the time. And no other time is promised to you. Maybe by us living this dark, maybe it will be the last night that you're going to be alive. But the good Lord will continue to bless you for every single thing that you do. So I'm asking you kindly, my brothers and sisters, let us bear in mind that consider this as your last night, that you are going to give or donate something for a cause worthy more than yourself. So if I could reach there, I just want to re-echo this again to you tonight. We've already attained, we've already eaten, and we've had so much to eat. But there is an orphan today in Sierra Leone who is without water, without food, or basic medical attention. So whatever help we can, please, let's do it tonight for the sake of the Lord. So I thank you so much, brother, and thank you so much, and happy birthday to you.
Thank you. Anyone else wants to say something? Well, if there is no more speeches, we'll listen to music, and in the meantime consider donating. Someone said bad things happen when good people do nothing. We are all good people. Your coming here this evening alone shows you care. So I encourage you to continue to donate what you can and to thank those who have already donated. Thank you very much. May God bless you. Mr. DJ.
Zina Malone.